Hi, welcome to another edition of the Gray Area. So it's an interesting week in Albany. First, we hosted the Canadian Consul General, Tom Clark, and as you know, it was a very tumultuous week between the United States and Canada. Let there be no question, Canada is important to us. Canada is important to the 116th Assembly District in a variety of ways. So let's talk about what happened. The threat of tariffs has been paused for 30 days. Canada has put $1.3 billion on the table for border security in a number of different measures that they're going to address. So first of all, the first target is to eliminate sources of illegal immigration from Canada to the United States, including reduced visa fraud and security screening and increased removals of failed asylum claimants. So important topic there. The next is eliminating illegal border crossings through real-time surveillance of the border area. That's going to include drones, it's going to include towers, it's going to include Black Hawk helicopters, K-9 teams, and military support for intelligence. So they're going to increase border personnel, which certainly will be a help to our Customs and Border Protection and patrol officers. It's going to increase the presence on the border. So the next area is going to be strike teams. They're going to strike at organized crime, human smuggling, drug smuggling. It's going to be a joint U.S.-Canadian action. So the next target area is going to be detect and disrupt the fentanyl trade with more technology and intelligence. We have one border, one team approach through more cross-border information and intelligence sharing. And then the last target area is keep people safe through joint emergency readiness and perimeter security cooperation, especially during the fire season. So important steps by Canada to help resolve this issue. Certainly we want to remain amicable. And why? Because the Canadian economy is very important to our economy, especially in the North Country. So let's talk about that. The Jefferson County exports to Canada in 2022 was $147 million. And we have a number of different companies that are located within Jefferson County that do business in Canada and export to Canada. So St. Lawrence County, it was a $301 million economy in 2022 of exports from St. Lawrence County to Canada, mainly centered around aluminum. So Canada is a very important trading partner. There are neighbors to the north. We want all this to be amicable. We want border security, and we want economic activity. So it was an important discussion, and it was a great meeting. We hosted Tom Clark, the Consul General, and the delegation from Canada from Monday to Wednesday, and we left with a takeaway that we're going to try to establish a meeting between the Border Czar Tom Homan and the Consul General to have further discussions on cooperation. Another important topic that was dealt with and hopefully has been put to rest in Albany this week was the potential for legislation that would have delayed the NY21 election. There was talk that there was going to be legislation proposed that would have extended it possibly as much as to 130 days. Legislatively, statutorily, it's 90 days from the time of resignation is received to the election date. We have historic data that has shown that those elections have taken place within 75 days, within 88 days, within 100 in one case, but never 130. So that was purely political. If you know me, you know I'm bipartisan. I'm very practical, pragmatic. But when legislation comes up that is blatantly partisan politics, I will stand up and be counted in that on behalf of the residents of the 116th Assembly District. Let's just take a look. That is important. Fort Drum, which has a $2 billion economic impact to the North Country, to all three counties, that would have been left without representation. Fort Drum, the single largest site employer in New York State, would have been left without representation. We had a legislator that was from Brooklyn, New York, that was going to propose this legislation. And we had no connection whatsoever to the NY21 district. So it was framed up as an issue of democracy, increased voter turnout, and cost. So keep in mind that the majority of the counties anticipated this opening, this special election, and have already budgeted for it. It was included in county budgets. It has already been levied for, and you've already received your tax bills. So for the marginal increased cost, it's worth it for democracy. Talk about democracy. You cannot say this is about democracy when you want to leave a seat open intentionally to narrow the margins of the majority in Washington. It's one party rule in Albany fighting one party rule in Washington. And I'll tell you, when it comes down to a political battle like that, that is not good governance. As we said last week, this was the season for a lot of constituencies that are coming in advocating for the budget, and undoubtedly it was a very busy week on that front. We had a number of different visitors. Of course, we mentioned Tom Clark, the Consul General, and the Canadian delegation. We also had the New York State United Teachers. NYSET was in. They had a reception. Finger Lakes, Lake Ontario Watershed Alliance, FLOPA, that they were in. New York State probation officers visited. We had the 2025 Youth Bureau conference members from St. Lawrence County. That was a great discussion, certainly on cell phone bans in schools. I learned a lot from the students, and that's always very important. And then we had North Country Family Health that talked about school-based services, healthcare services in schools. We had YMCA in, as well as the North Country Library Systems and the librarians advocating on behalf of their libraries across New York State. So it was a busy week in Albany. It was a great week in Albany. As always, I appreciate the opportunity to serve you and represent you in the state's capital.